The Boston Massacre, the night that awakened a revolution. Welcome to Historic Crimes TV, where you get the true story of events that have happened in the past which helped shape the history of the world that we are living in. Before we begin, please click the subscribe button below so you will get more from us. Now relax and enjoy. On the night of March 5, 1770, a chilling silence settled over the city of Boston. A silence that would soon be shattered by gunfire, by panic, and by a tragedy that echoed across an empire. The Boston Massacre was not simply an accident, not simply a riot, not simply a killing. It was a spark born from years of anger, oppression, and misunderstanding that pushed America one step closer to revolution. This is the detailed story of that night. A city under pressure, Boston, 1770. A city of only 16,000 people, yet one of the busiest ports in North America. Ships arrived daily, carrying goods, taxes, and tension. For years, the British government imposed taxes on the Sugar Act, the Stamp Act, and the Townshend Acts. To enforce these laws, they sent troops to Boston in 1768. The people saw them not as protectors, but as invaders. Red-coated soldiers marched through narrow streets. Drills echoed at dawn. Patrols moved through marketplaces. To many colonists, Boston felt like a prison under military rule. Resentment and resistance grew. Fights were common. Soldiers struggled to find work and competed with locals for jobs. Crowds insulted soldiers daily, calling them lobsters, bloody backs, and tyrants. The soldiers answered with threats of their own. Boston stood on the edge of violence. All it needed was one spark. The first spark, nighttime shots. A single soldier stands guard. On March 5, around 8:30 p.m., Private Hugh White stood guard outside the Customs House on King Street. His job was simple: protect the building and its treasury. But that night, a young apprentice named Edward Garrick insulted a British officer over an unpaid bill. When he repeated the insult to Private White, the soldier snapped, striking the boy with his musket. The blow drew attention, voices rose, people gathered and snowballs flew. Ice chunks slammed into the soldier's uniform. Within minutes, a crowd swelled to more than 100 furious civilians. White called for backup, and that call changed everything. Soldiers in the crowd, Captain Thomas Preston, responding to the alarm, arrived with 7 soldiers. They lined up in a tight formation, muskets loaded, bayonets fixed. Their orders were clear: defend the soldier, but do not fire. But the crowd only grew louder. The crowd shouts, "Fire if you dare! You cowards! Bloody tyrants!" The colonists believed the soldiers held no authority over them. The soldiers believed their lives were in danger. Both sides were blinded by fear. The mob hurled clubs, stones, and oyster shells. A church bell rang, usually the signal for a fire, which sent more people rushing to the scene. The soldiers were surrounded, their backs pressed against the Customs House wall, their fingers trembling near their triggers. Boston stood seconds away from disaster. Please like the video if you think the citizens are right. The gunshot that changed history. In the chaos, a hard chunk of ice struck Private Hugh Montgomery. He slipped, lost his balance, and his gun discharged. The shot exploded through the cold air. A single, devastating blast. For a split second, there was silence. Then everything collapsed. Believing the order had been given, the other soldiers fired, one shot, then another and another. Smoke drifted over King Street. People screamed. The crowd scattered, then surged forward again. When the smoke cleared, 5 colonists lay dead or dying. The fallen, Crispus Attucks, a sailor of African and native descent, struck by 2 bullets. The first to fall. Samuel Gray, a rope maker, shot at nearly point-blank range. James Caldwell, a young sailor, killed instantly. Samuel Maverick, only 17 years old. Patrick Carr, mortally wounded, dying days later with a bullet deep in his abdomen. Their deaths would ignite a movement far greater than anyone on King Street imagined. The city erupts, crowds flooding the streets, chaos growing. When word spread, Boston exploded. Bells rang. Thousands poured into the streets. The Sons of Liberty, led by Samuel Adams, declared the killings a massacre before the bodies were even removed. Some demanded that the soldiers be hanged immediately. Others urged caution. To prevent a citywide riot, acting Governor Thomas Hutchinson made a desperate announcement: the soldiers would be arrested and justice would be served. The crowd finally dispersed. But the damage, political and emotional, was done. The trial, courtroom reenactment. In a surprising turn, the man chosen to defend the British soldiers was John Adams, a respected lawyer and a future president of the United States. He believed something powerful, that even enemies deserve justice. During the trial, Adams argued that the soldiers acted in self-defense, surrounded by a violent mob in the middle of the night. His closing words would become famous: "Facts are stubborn things." The jury agreed and 6 soldiers were acquitted. 2 were found guilty of manslaughter and branded on their thumbs. Justice, at least in the eyes of the law, was done. But in the hearts of the people, the wounds remained open. A massacre becomes a movement. Montage of Paul Revere engraving, revolutionary protests. The patriots quickly seized the moment. Paul Revere's engraving, dramatic, exaggerated, and powerful, spread across the colonies like wildfire. The event was forever branded the Boston Massacre. It became a symbol of British oppression. A rallying cry for liberty. A spark that pushed colonists from protest to revolution. 5 years later, the American Revolution would begin. But many historians agree, the true beginning was here. On a snowy night in Boston. With a single gunshot that no one meant to fire. The Boston Massacre was more than a tragedy. It was the moment when America's fight for independence truly awoke. Do you agree with the court judgment? Drop your comment and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching.